A rivalry resumes as UConn hosts Notre Dame in women's basketball this afternoon. This is Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UconnHuskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday and welcome back to another episode of Locked On UConn. I am Matt Schonvisky, a two-time graduate, tenure credential media member, and host of the only daily UConn sports podcast, Locked On UConn, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for making this your first listen each and every single day. On today's show, we will preview today's women's basketball showdown between UConn and Notre Dame. Then, the men squeaked by Georgetown over the weekend down in the nation's capital. We'll summarize. And finally, Jason Candle continues to load the boats in stores. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. So today is one of those games we've circled on this calendar dating back to November, December timeframe, as UConn had headed into Big East play. And we all know that Big East play this year is nothing to write home about for the UConn women, because the lack of competition that they're going to face in conferences is not what it used to be. It's not what it should be. It's not what is going to challenge this team. And it's games like today, Notre Dame, games like February 1st, Tennessee, that are really going to move the needle and figure out and really challenge this program to see, hey, where are we really at as we start thinking about end of the year. And listen, UConn and Notre Dame, the rivalry there, the amount of times they've matched up in key situations too, because Notre Dame left the Big East early 2010s. They still continue to play time and time again, and more often than not, it's in the NCAA tournament. It's when it's in a one-and-done setting, when seasons are on the line, when national championships are on the line. In the last 10, both teams are 5-5. Notre Dame has won the last 3 matchups against UConn. So when we look ahead to February 1st in Tennessee, you can also say the same thing about this matchup. Revenge is on the mind. UConn has won 34 straight since their last loss to Tennessee on the road last season. UConn owes Tennessee a return the favor type game. UConn owes Notre Dame a return the favor type game after the last 3 matchups that these two teams have had. And UConn comes in, like I mentioned, 34 straight wins and off yet another dominating performance this past week. And Sarah Strong is going to introduce herself to this rivalry this afternoon. A game that is going to be on national television, on Fox, at Gamble, between 2 prominent programs when it comes to women's basketball. Notre Dame enters 12-5. They did fall after early last weekend. They took down a top 25 North Carolina team by 23 points, which turned a lot of people's heads here in Connecticut about, hey, this Notre Dame team is peaking at the right time ahead of this UConn matchup. They had lost a couple games, dominated Boston College, then blew out North Carolina, but came back against the top 10 Louisville team and fell on the road. At home by 13. So consistency is something that, hey, Notre Dame is 4-3 in the ACC, 12-5 overall. What type of team are you going to get today? Is it going to be the team that took down Carolina? Is it going to be the team that absolutely demolished Florida State on the road? Or is it going to be the team that got absolutely blown out by Michigan at home? So you have a hit or miss team, it seems, with Notre Dame this season. You're either completely on and dominating, or you are not quite yourself and have a chance to get blown out potentially. So this season for Notre Dame has ebbed and flowed from afar, it seems. But still, this rivalry, this is a challenge. Anytime Notre Dame and UConn get paired up in women's basketball, people think back to Sue Bird at the buzzer. People think back to the Big East days of old. People think back even more recently to NCAA tournament matchups and broken hearts in Final Fours. So this is a big-time game on campus in the middle of January as UConn is peaking. They continue to get better and better and better every time out. And it's a perfect time for these types of matchups, both today and in a couple weeks when Tennessee is on the schedule. So what am I looking for today? I'm looking for more of the same in terms of how you approach the game, how you play defense, how you share the ball offensively, how you get in the passing lanes, continued improvement at the free throw line. Those are each of the things that I'm looking for today. When it comes to some of the younger players on this team, don't let this moment be too big. Blanca, for instance. Don't let this moment be too big. Let's see how you react in a primetime game on national television against a name opponent, against a rival, pressure situation at home. Let's see how you react. Let's see how AZ Fudd, as the leader in one of these marquee matchups, reacts. Does she have a great shooting day? Does she have a so-so shooting day? Is she up for the moment right off the bat? Does she have to work into the game? Either way is fine, because I know AZ is going to put up at least 15 points. We know Blanca's going to put in at least 10 points. We know Sarah Strong is going to put in at least 16, 17, 18 points. We know they're going to be factors defensively. But how this team performs in pressure situations with the light shining down on national television, something I'm looking forward to. I think Gino's looking forward to it. I think this team is looking forward to it. I know the fans are looking forward to it. The nostalgia just between these two programs, the rivalries like we mentioned, the matchups, the memories. This is what college sports are all about. And we've lost this with some of the conference realignment that's going on. These two haven't played that much in the regular season in conference play. Luckily, Gino's of the mindset, hey, let's schedule as many top teams as we possibly can. Let's schedule as many familiar opponents as we possibly can out of conference. And then when these two get into March, obviously they're going to be more often than not matching up as well, just given the talent that both programs possess. So this game is a big one. No doubt about it. We will have full coverage post-game. In terms of prediction of score, I think this is going to be a closer game. I think this has a chance to be under 20. I think Notre Dame's going to come in. They're going to be fired up. They've obviously competed with some bigger name teams. They did beat USC earlier this season. They crushed Florida State on the road. They did fall to Ole Miss. They did fall to Georgia Tech. They did fall to Duke. They did beat North Carolina. And they did beat Pitt. And they absolutely crushed Boston College. Boston College seems to be struggling, unless you play Syracuse. Let's throw shade a little that way. For any of those of you that tune into the National College Basketball Show on Sunday night, Syracuse, UConn, we were going a little back and forth there. But this matchup, it's one that I think everybody here at Connecticut circles on their calendars. Just like Tennessee. You've got the Tennessee rivalry. You've got the Notre Dame rivalry. And then more recently, you have the South Carolina rivalry, of course. And some of the others, Stanford, et cetera, in Maryland, Boston College. Yeah, over the years, ebb and flow. But Notre Dame has historically been there every year. Tennessee has historically been there every year as a true rival. Dating back all the way to Muffin. So it's one that you look forward to, regardless of records, regardless of perceived level of talent. Anytime these two square off, it's entertainment. It's entertainment at its finest. So we'll have full post-game coverage after the matchup later tonight. But after the break, we're going to turn our attention to the men's side on the basketball court as they escaped, let's say, the nation's capital on Saturday with the win over Georgetown. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, including tonight, the national championship between Indiana and Miami, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what you can love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset coming. Or build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. Then you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. Especially like tonight's national championship, the last time you can get in on the action in college football until later this calendar year. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. Back in on Locked On UConn, and we are switching gears from the women's side of the basketball court to the men's side as UConn took on Georgetown on Saturday. And it, once again, left me wanting more and more and more because we are still in that midseason lull, that midseason drought where UConn is still not playing up to par. And it's starting to get a little frustrating, I will say, watching games and thinking about, hey, how talented and how deep this team is, and how the longer they play this way, how is that going to impact not only how they perform in March and April, but also the path and the road that they're going to have in March and April. Because if you continue to have close games on the road, Georgetown, 1-5, 1-6 now in the Big East. And it's a 2-point game. A 2-point win on the road. Having to come back after trailing a second. To a Georgetown team that, hey, at the start of this year was looking pretty good. But once they got into Big East play, it's been a struggle. They're at 500. And you've got Ed Cooley talking postgame about things that have nothing to do with basketball. And talking about how things could be so much worse just looking at the world today. Well, you're paid and hired to be a basketball coach, Ed. The job at hand is to win basketball games. And if you're not doing that, then you are failing at your job. So I hate when coaches get on a soapbox and try to direct attention away from their current state of affairs within their basketball program. Because clearly, something's not working down at Georgetown. I, for one, thought Cooley was going to go down and turn Georgetown around pretty much immediately. I was a big fan of Cooley when he was at Providence. Still a big fan of his, but the results are not following through. So Georgetown's in a lot of trouble. On the UConn side, how can you complain about 14 wins in a row? How can you complain about 18-1? How can you complain about 8-0 in the Big East? Well, since New Year's Day, UConn has not played up to par. They've taken the court 5 times. Marquette, we all know Dan Hurley, despite the 16-point win, was completely dissatisfied with that start to finish mindset, mentality, lackadaisical effort. On the road at Providence, a huge comeback victory, but why are you down to Providence? Why are you blowing 18-point leads to Providence? Why are you going to overtime to Providence? DePaul, yes, you had the 20-point win, or you were up by 20 plus, but then you only win by 12. Not a full effort. Seton Hall on the road, again, not a great effort. Georgetown on the road, again, not a great effort. Now, I think the perception of many is this Big East Conference is not great. But we all know each and every single year, especially in the championship years here with Dan Hurley, when were UConn's biggest challenges? It was in conference play. And a lot of that has to do with playing UConn multiple times a season and knowing and understanding some of the players, but more importantly, how Dan Hurley and his staff like to approach games, their offensive sets that they run, how they figure out how to defend this team. I think that's also why you see Big East Conference games be more competitive than some of these out-of-conference matchups. But the fact of the matter remains, you cannot go on the road to Providence, be up 18, and be going to overtime. You can't be down in the second half to Georgetown on the road and only win by 2. You need to put together a full 40 minutes. We've talked about this time and time again. What's plaguing this team? It's the ebbs and flows it can see throughout a game. But you know where consistency is coming? It's from Terrace Reed. Once again, led the way. Had 15 points, 11 rebounds. Nice double-double there for Reed on Saturday. Got 30 minutes of action. And he had 4 fouls. Brella Mullins only shot 3 of 9, but he put in 11 points. Silas Demery continues to be Mr. Consistency as we've gone forward here. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, filling up the stat sheet. And then solo ball, Alex Caravan, they struggled on Saturday. Caravan's first real struggle of the season. He went 2 of 11, 1 of 6 from 3, only 2 of 4 from the line. And the solo ball, 10 points, but 3 of 10 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3, and 4 of 6 from the line. So Caravan and Ball combined 1 of 11 from 3, and UConn only shot 19% from 3. Only shot 36% from the field. So it was a struggle. And they also got out-rebounded. Again, going back to some of the struggles earlier this season, a lot of that was focused on, hey, Terrace Reed wasn't there. You're getting out-rebounded on the glass. When Reed was in foul trouble, Georgetown did take advantage. They were able to attack on the inside. Their center had 12 points, 14 boards. And when he posted up, he was able to get to the rim and put in points. But when Terrace Reed came back on the floor, he was able to shut down that post game. So it was really defense that won this game for UConn. It was not on the offensive end at all. They forced 13 turnovers. They only committed 6. But the biggest thing to me is the full 40 minutes and that complete desire and hustle and first to the ball on the floor, the loose balls. UConn's got to get an uptick here because we can't continue to see ebbs and flows like this. At some point here in January, we need to see the Huskies revert back to what we saw at Xavier on New Year's Eve, because that's what we know this team is capable of. And that's what we need to start seeing, because these type of wins don't help your resume in March. Yes, you're 18-1, but when you get 2-point wins against a 9-9, 1-6 in conference Georgetown, yes, it's a win, but there's an asterisk there. Yeah, how good is this UConn team? Is this UConn team peaking at the right time? I think you could say, hey, they're going through a little bit of struggles. The shooting slumps are back for some of the players here with UConn. This is going to happen. It's a long season. There will be ebbs and flows. And like we talked about, let's get through the valley, continue on the rise. As long as we're going like this and we don't continue to see lower lows, I think we're going to be all right. But again, off another win, Coach Hurley has a lot to look at. The Huskies are off. They've got, I think it's a well-deserved or well-needed, a much-needed week off, because they don't return to action until Villanova this weekend. So you have the full week to recover, rest. They've done some traveling. They got back-to-back home games. First you got Villanova, then you got Providence. So we'll continue to stay close. This week it's going to be low to lull from a game time perspective, but we will continue throughout the week. Now, on the other side of the break, we will be turning our attention to football as Jason Candle continues to pull in P4 transfers via the portal. We'll be back. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Again, that's turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Back in on our final segment of this Monday edition of Locked On UConn, and we are turning our attention to the gridiron as Jason Candle continues to use the transfer portal to identify Power 4 level players to come in here and bolster the UConn football. So since the last time we talked, UConn has gotten another 8 commits via the transfer portal, including a number of defensive backs, a position that, listen, as you revamp a defense, you bring in a new defensive system, a new scheme, a new defensive coordinator. The defensive backfield is huge. Obviously, the front seven in and of itself drives the defense, but if you don't have guys that cover, especially in today's day and age of college football, you might be struggling significantly. So it's very important that this staff identifies the right guys on the back end of this defense to hold things down in the passing game. And I think you've got a few here to highlight. Braden Moore, a transfer from Toledo, who originally started his career at Wisconsin. So again, Jason Candle, even going back to his Toledo days, pulling guys in from the P4 level into his programs, regardless of where he is. But here at UConn, I think you're seeing this take it to another level. Yes, Jason Candle is a great recruiter. Yes, he is. No doubt about it. You're seeing it play out with the types of players he's bringing into stores. But I think as you move on from Toledo and the MAC up here to UConn, coming off back-to-back 9-win seasons, looking at what UConn brings to the table both academically and athletically, what the UConn brand means nationally, I think Jason Candle is able to utilize that and drive the needle even further to attract a number of athletes here to UConn. Maybe even some that would not be going to Toledo, but would consider UConn and are coming to UConn. So Braden Moore is the first defensive back, likely a safety. At the corner spots, CJ Bell is coming in from Iowa. And CJ Bell is one of these kids that really could have gone anywhere coming out of high school. Including Rutgers, Boston College, Maryland, Minnesota. A very long list of offers. I think it was 30 plus that CJ Bell had coming out of high school, including Penn State, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, on top of the list that I've already said. So it's a big get for UConn. I think he's a player that can come in. Some of the players that they're bringing are one done more. You can't identify guys in the that highly sought after. You're not losing players. You're keeping players and allowing them to develop that relationship that's built through the culture that Candle has. It's going to allow players to stay here longer term than maybe you would have done for some one and dones that might be looking for greener pastures. Another defensive back saw firsthand what UConn in the environment at the Rent can be like is transferring in from Duke. Musa Kane, a player that also UConn went after during his recruiting. But now that Candle's here, and he saw firsthand exactly what the UConn environment can be like, is deciding to make Storrs his new home. And Kane, coming out of high school, my goodness, his offer list. Penn State, Boston College, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Purdue, Rutgers, Syracuse, Wake, West. Need I say more in this day and age, in the Jason Candle era? And I say recruiting uptick than anything that this program has had previously. UConn has had some great classes, no doubt about it. There's some classes in the years with Darius Butler, Daniel Lansana. You got the Scott Luttress years, where there were a number of players, Anthony Sherman, several others, that were able to come in and be NFL caliber players in the NFL. There have been classes where UConn's gotten 5, 6, 7 players in the recruiting class to be able to go on and at least have time in NFL camps. No doubt about it. But you never had a list of players, as long as you do today, that coming out of high school had offers. Clemson, Penn State, Georgia, Alabama. Never. So as Candle has arrived, he is bringing a new type of recruiting approach to UConn. And it's one that is driving the needle and bringing a higher talent coming out of high school. Higher valuation of talent coming out of high school. Because, listen, a lot of players are under the radar still. Not everybody can be graded fairly. Not everyone is graded fairly. And if you commit to a school that is not in this quote-unquote Power 4, your recruiting ranking will take a hit. But you have never seen this much talent come in that had offers like they do today coming out of high school. And Jason Candle's only been here, what? Less than a month. And he's been able to deliver. And maybe behind the scenes, you're getting more NIL. Maybe UConn and the state are providing more to the football program. Very well could be. But I think without Jason Candle, without his staff, and without the they have recruiting trail, I don't think seeing this level of talent on a recruiting cycle coming in from the transfer portal. So like I said, Candle's been here less than a month. Of the 63 new players coming in, Candle is responsible for 57 of them. So we talked last week and the week prior about at least 71 players that they need to replace from this past season's roster, either via graduation, via professional aspirations, or via the transfer portal. Jason Candle and his staff have hit the ground completely running. Dare I call it even a full sprint in less than a month to identify and bring in and get 57 players to commit to this program. It's just from afar and from the outside looking in, it's quite the feat. And it's not just that. It's where they're coming from, the talent that they have, and how that's going to help this football program going forward to continue to build off the back-to-back 9-win seasons that Jim Moore accomplished here. So listen, on paper, because we need to see it on the practice field, spring ball is coming. Fall camp will come after that. And then game day finally. We'll need to see that play out. But on paper, I am very satisfied as somebody that's been in and around the program since way back in 2011, involved with the program. And even before that as a student at the university, going all the way back to 2004, 2003. So nothing but praise for the job that Jason Candle has done here. Nothing but praise for the job that his staff has done here. And I think a lot of UConn fans can be rest assured that they're in very good hands in terms of being able to bring in talent to this program. Now, how things play out on game day, how he runs his program, we'll see. This is a prove it to me type of business. We can look back on his track record at Toledo. Obviously, no losing seasons. We can look back at the cultures that he's built up at his prior stops. But here, we want to see it. We're not going to start proclaiming things until we see on the field how this on-paper talent translates to the practice field and then ultimately on game day. So UConn's clearly not done. They are still attacking the portal. We talked about 3 of them today. Just very quickly running through the list. Ben Mulholland, an offensive lineman coming in from Houston Christian. David Laganga, the long snapper coming in from Kentucky of the SEC. Andrew Lorich, defensive lineman, flipping to a lot of the players coming from Colorado State to UConn after Jim Moore arrived. And they got Mike Baker, a kicker from Ole Miss. And then recently, earlier today, Shamar Riser Presley, a defensive lineman coming in from Buffalo. So, again, continue to add up to 63 now, new players coming in. 57, Jason Candle is absolutely responsible for since he arrived. We will continue to stay close to this coverage as we move forward here through the week and as UConn looks to finalize their roster leading into spring football. But with that, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On UConn. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And for a second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, hosted by Peter Bukowski, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And of course, after today's UConn Notre Dame matchup, we will have post-game coverage on tonight's show and any other news that breaks between now and then. And as always, go Huskies!